Thanks for staying with us. As the National Assembly resumed legislative activities for the year 2022, many are of the opinion that the parliamentarians need to address critical issues which affect the daily lives of the people. On our next segment, Split Views, we take up a member representing Kogi West Senatorial District, Senator Smart Adeyemi. Join us. Welcome to the Split Views segments of our program, Abuja Dispatch. And on Split Views tonight, we have the pleasure of welcoming to our midst the senator representing Kogi West Senatorial District, Senator Smart Adeyemi. Welcome to the program, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Now, sir, the Senate just passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, prescribing 3 options for political parties to choose their candidates. What informed this new stand by the upper chamber? And you personally, what's your own stand concerning this issue?
Well, I'm sure you were in the chamber when we had the first debates on the Electoral Act. And I was the only senator that opposed the decision at that time to put in place direct primary elections for political parties to have their candidates by way of preparing the parties to have their candidates to run elections. I opposed it because I took into consideration the challenges and the burdens of having to go around the world and campaign and contest election. I look at the obstacles, the challenges, the pains, the financial implications of having to conduct a direct primary system election for political parties to have their candidates. At that time, quite a number of my colleagues were opposed to it. And I argue that it's too cumbersome a process. And that it is not the business of any political party as to how another political party decide to have their candidate in the first instance. And for the electorate, I think what they should look forward to is for political parties to come out with the best candidates that they have. Now, if a political party refuse to put up a system that will guarantee the best of candidates for their party, it is at the expense of that political party to have a candidate that will not be voted for. In essence, if a political party should feed a candidate that is not popular or that is not acceptable to the electorate, they have other contestants in other political parties. And those parties will feed candidates that could be better than the candidate that fails to bring a good candidate. So to me, it pays political parties to produce the best candidate, which can be done not just through the direct primary election. You can use the indirect primary election, or you can even go ahead to do consensus system, whereby opinion leaders, stakeholders of the party, will look at those who have showed interest and come to the conclusion that this is better. You can create a platform which will enable candidates to come and campaign, and about 100 people could sit down and look at those candidates and say this is better. Now, that to me is cheaper, less stress, and less risk for candidates to emerge from the political parties that are feeding candidates. So to me, I hold the view that the best form of picking candidates for parties to contest the election is it's not one-way traffic. You cannot tell me that it's only through direct primary election. If you have contested the election before at this level, you discover that you are going to run the campaign twice or thrice, because once you ask candidates to go to direct elections, the implication will be that after the direct election system, they will now go back again to campaign the same ward. You start going around those same wards to campaign for a general election. Now, that will be more expensive, and that is some of the problem that is making some politicians to be corrupt. When they overspend money, when the system is such that they are compelled to go and look for money by our means to run elections, When they eventually emerge, they want to recoup the money. So why do you allow them to go through that pain? To me, if a party fails to fill a good candidate for election, a candidate with integrity, with honor, who is visionary, who is enterprising, who is willing to serve the people, is at the risk of that political party. People will now vote for another candidate that is, to them, is better. So to me, the system will check itself. So I stood up and opposed it. But I think my colleagues have seen superior argument, and that explains why they have decided to have a second look at the decision we have taken in the Senate.
Now, sometimes in November, you spoke extensively when seconding a bill of an act to enact the Money Laundering Act to provide comprehensive legal and institutional framework for prevention of money laundering. Now, how will you describe the third leg of the so-called third leg of the tripod, of the APC-led government, which is fighting corruption 6 years after?
Well, corruption is a global problem. And corruption is something that we'll keep on fighting until the return of Christ. Because presently there's a global economic recession, which is compelling people to be tempted to look for extra means of resources. In that process, some people compromise the system. Now, this government came and they started fighting corruption. But it's not as if corruption is dead. In fact, corruption is fighting back. But be that as it may, I hold the view that they've not done badly in their war against corruption. But I will not equally tell you that there's no reason for concern about the level of corruption in the country. But not only in Nigeria, it's a global problem, like I said. Even the developed nations, they are coping with corruption cases. Well, I think that some of the challenges we are facing today as a nation, especially when we talk about corruption, is as a result of the kind of system we are running in Nigeria. We run a very complex system, and you cannot actually define Nigeria as a federation. Nigeria is not a unitary system, neither are we running federations, as a people. I think we have a very confused system that we run in Nigeria, where you can hardly place which kind of system is this nation being governed. When we got independence, it was agreed that Nigeria would be a federation. That means when the colonial master came, they appreciated the fact that there are quite a number of semi-autonomous communities and nationalities. Now, for us to work together, we need to have our recognition as we are as a people based on all the sentiments in politics. But it is not so today. And that explains why every Nigerian assumed that Nigeria is a big elephant. Everybody wants to cut his own and go home. Nobody cares about how the elephant is going to feed and what becomes the elephant in the future. So in essence, if Nigeria is restructured, I hold the view that there will be less corruption because everybody will have to struggle to meet the needs and the aspiration of their sub-political entity. And that will minimize corruption. Today, most Nigerians see Nigeria as a free-for-all. That is, everybody just take your own and go home. And that accounts for the level of corruption today. But being as it may, I hold the view that this government is fighting corruption, but being as it is, we will not say that corruption is completely wiped out. They are still coping with it, the challenges of it. As a matter of fact, corruption is taking so many dimensions. You recall in the floor of the Senate, I did say that corruption is taking different dimensions and faces, where people buy properties abroad in the name of their wife, their children, their relations, their children. And some of my colleagues were against what I was saying. But they know I was speaking the truth. And I was not talking to anybody in particular. But I know this is what is happening. Not only members of the political class, but even people who are not in politics. People who are affording money and they are buying properties outside this country. So I was suggesting that there's a need for us to look at properties that have been bought, maybe in the last 10, 15 years, and find out if they are Nigerians and how they got the money, especially those who have held political position before.
You've just mentioned some stuff concerning properties, houses, and of course, during the week you were in the news, because of a bill that you raised, on the floor of the plenaries. Now, concerning residential apartments and, offices, space, What informed this kind of bill from you?
Well, I was once a tenant myself, and I know the pains tenants go through in the hands of some wicked landlords. And I feel that if I have a vantage position, I should see how others do not have to go through the pains I went through in the hands of landlords in the first instance. But seriously speaking, let me just tell you that you just talked about corruption. Corruption will persist as long as we do not put appropriate legislation in place that will cushion the effects of this system that will run, so that the average Nigerian can have a fair comfort of the essentials of life, that is having a roof over their head, being able to guarantee 3 square meals. Today, in Abuja, for instance, quite a number of people cannot pay their rent bills. They can't pay their bills because what the landlords are asking them is far more than their source of livelihood. That's number one. Number two, this Abuja was built with the concept of we want only the comfortable people, the rich people to be in the city. In the essence that there's no available accommodation for the low-income earners in Abuja city. There's no affordable accommodation for low-income earners in Abuja. But yet, the rich needs the poor to be able to live. There's a city called the Forbidden City in China. Some hundreds of years ago, some people built a city in China, and they said they don't want any poor people around them. But eventually, the city collapsed. So, in essence, we must provide and safeguard the interests of the common man, the man on the street. This bill we are proposing in Abuja, first and foremost, is to make sure that civil servants and low-income earners are protected from the child landlords. People have amassed so much wealth. This wealth they have amassed, they forget that they owe the average Nigerian some level of protection and comfort. We will not tolerate a situation where landlords will continue asking young graduates who have just been employed, looking for 1 or 2 rooms, to now look for 2 years rent, 3 years rent. Most of the corruption cases you see today emanated because some family, head of families, can no longer pay their bills. They can't pay their rent. So they dip their hands to the covers of government. Now, we must put in place legislation that will protect the poor. Now, people cannot now say because they have amassed so much wealth, then you now tactically enslave the tenants. Okay? So the bill is essentially to safeguard the interests of the low-income earners so that they can live comfortably. We are asking in this bill that if you are a tenant, you can struggle to look for 3 months rent. After the 3 months rent you have paid, while you are taking over the apartment, you pay monthly, no more 1 year or 2 years rent. That is the way you can make people to be dedicated, patriotic, and committed. Legislators must put in place laws that will be of interest, that will impact positively in life of the man on the street. And that's what informed the position of this rent bill in Abuja here.
Our guest tonight has been Senator Smart Adeyemi, representing Kogi West Senatorial District. Thank you for your time, sir.
It's my pleasure.
Really
You're welcome.
appreciate you.
Thank you.